This is the paper ceiling, an invisible barrier that defines the modern workforce. It is a filter that allows those with formal credentials to pass into high-earning roles, while blocking those who have the skills, but lack the degree, from moving upward. To see how this filter operates in the real world, we look to the village of Mangalore and a woman named Savita, who was left to raise 2 sons alone after her husband's death. Savita faced a rigid economic constraint. Her savings could only fund one son's path into the city's education system. She had to choose which son would receive the investment and which would be left behind. She based her decision on traditional academic performance. Her younger son, Manav, showed the book smarts expected of a future manager, making him the logical choice for the degree path. This left the older son, Atul, to enter the workforce immediately. He took a job as a helper for a local sweet maker, essentially starting his career at the lowest rung of the vocational ladder. This choice created a stark divergence in their daily lives. While Manav began his preparation for university, Atul reported for his first shift in a hot kitchen, his future now tethered to manual labor and limited expectations. In many economies, this is where the story is expected to end. We often assume that the uncredentialed worker has reached their ceiling early, while the student has been given the only viable key to success. But mastery doesn't only happen in a classroom. Over the next 3 years, both brothers began a parallel ascent, though they operated in 2 entirely different economic frameworks. On the left, Manav climbed the credentialed economy, getting a degree and becoming a senior manager. On the right, Atul rose through the vocational economy, mastering culinary techniques in the kitchen, eventually achieving the exact same level of mastery. High-level proficiency is achievable through both theoretical study and practical application. The tension only arises when these 2 paths are forced to intersect. That intersection occurred when Manav invited his boss, the owner of a 5-star restaurant group, to dinner, hoping to leverage his family's new city lifestyle to further his career. When their mother fell ill that evening, Atul was forced to take over the kitchen. For the first time, his uncredentialed mastery was the only thing standing between Manav and a professional disaster. Manav was visibly anxious. He viewed his brother's lack of education as a liability and insisted that Atul remained hidden, fearing that the presence of a village helper would damage his standing with the boss. The boss's reaction was the opposite. He was struck by the technical precision of the meal and the professional standard of the service, noting that the quality rivaled that of his own high-end establishments. When Atul was eventually introduced, Manav tried to minimize his contribution, framing him as a mere servant who happened to know a few recipes. But a true expert recognizes skill, regardless of the title attached to it. The boss saw the tangible evidence on the plate and offered Atul a trial job at his flagship restaurant. For Manav, his brother's success didn't feel like a family victory. It felt like an existential threat. If Atul could reach the same level without the degree, it called into question the very credentials Manav had used to define his own worth. This insecurity led to a deliberate act of sabotage. During the trial at the restaurant, Manav ordered the kitchen staff to overspice Atul's signature dish, hoping a public failure would keep his brother behind the paper ceiling. The plan collapsed when their mother, who had overheard Manav's instructions, warned the boss about the interference before the meal was served. The response was immediate. Upon realizing Manav had attempted to ruin his own brother's career out of spite, the boss fired him on the spot. A degree can get someone into the room, but it doesn't provide the foundational ethics required to stay there. When the pressure shifted, Manav's credentials couldn't mask his lack of integrity. Even after the sabotage, Atul asked the boss to show mercy and allow Manav to keep his job. This act of grace highlighted the final gap between the 2. Manav had focused on the prestige of his position, while Atul had focused on the mastery of his craft and the loyalty to his family. The paper ceiling often misleads us into measuring people by where they started. But true merit is found in the intersection of practical skill and the character to use it, qualities that a diploma might supplement but can never replace.